Good morning and welcome to Inside Tennessee. Along with my colleague John North, I'm John Becker, and we are here to talk about something that has thousands of parents of fourth graders in limbo. We're back to where we were last spring. Really? Tell us it isn't true, but we are telling you it is true and why it's important. Joining us to talk about it, two people who know education quite well. Dr. Erin Phillips, Executive Director of Learning and Literacy with Knox County. It's nice to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Catherine Bike represents District 4 on the school board. She's also a mom. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Both of you are mothers, and we're appreciative of that. Also with us, a father who happens to be Eddie Smith and a former lawmaker. He's also a Republican. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Don Bosch, you are my father. No, you're a Democrat and you run your own office.
I may be the third grader here, so we'll see.
It's good. Runs his own law firm. It's great to have all of you back. We make light, but this is a very serious subject because we're talking about the third grade retention law, which we had a lot of conversation on this program about last year, and now the ripple impact we're seeing in fourth grade this year. And we're talking about something that may change over the coming week or two or three, but Catherine Bike, let's start with you because you are a mom who did have a third grader last year who was facing some serious challenges.
Yeah, like I have said before, when I started advocating for this, I didn't realize that it would rope me in personally, and then it did. And you know, my son is amazing at math, and his teachers were very surprised when he got roped into this, and it was even more traumatic for him and for me and our family to go through that, and his teacher to go through that. Luckily, he didn't pass the retest, but we were granted an appeal because of his benchmarks. I assume, and so he is in the fourth grade now, but he is still struggling a lot. You know, we're very privileged and promising him a lot of things, essentially like bribing him as a parent to make good grades and to like still try hard, but it was a lot over the summer to get him just to want to even go back to school again. And he has really amazing teachers. One of his teachers is Teacher of the Year, and that I'm so grateful to have them because they've really made a difference for him, but he is still struggling. Some of the things, you know, he calls himself dumb very often and stupid, and started hitting himself on the head and all of these things. And this is a child that still passed to the fourth grade and is, you know, generally a typical fourth grader and never had issues reading. He started reading when he was like 2 or 3. He started reading before his sister did. He's never been recommended for RTI or anything like that. And so it's been hard. It's been hard.
That is one story, one example, Dr. Phillips, of what we saw play out last year for third grade moms and dads. And now they're in limbo again in fourth grade and not being promised the same help that they were last year in the form of tutoring and summer school and that type of thing to move their child on to another grade. Explain the situation as it stands and just how many young people we're talking about in Knox County alone.
Sure. So in Knox County, we have 898 students who are in the fourth grade who are required to participate in year-long tutoring. And those students are subject to the adequate growth measure written into law. And so as the law currently stands, those students either need to reach proficiency on the fourth grade ELA TCAP to be promoted to fifth grade or meet their individualized adequate growth measure. Otherwise, they face retention.
And this was all about accountability by the state legislature. And John, I want to bring you in because we may see some changes on this in the coming week or so by the state board. But the idea was we shouldn't be pushing students along into the next grade if they're not ready. That may be a good goal, but it is having some perhaps unintended consequences.
It's had a lot of angst. It's caused a lot of angst, and there's been a lot of discussion, and a lot of people have felt like we don't clearly understand what the direction is going to be. You mentioned the State Board of Education, which meets actually tomorrow, Monday, and this is a meeting that was delayed from February, and as I understand, the board's looking at potentially doing some changes to help maybe define the better pathway. Is that correct, Dr. Phillips?
So as I understand it, on Monday, State Board will meet to talk about a third grade promotion pathway around the appeals process. And so based on listening to the last state board meeting on February 16th, they indicated that this special called meeting would discuss the 3rd grade appeals pathway at the 40th percentile. And so on Monday, we should hear more about that particular pathway, not necessarily a pathway for 4th grade students.
One of the board members mentioned a resolution that he's interested in promoting, and I wanted to get your reaction to this. This is Ryan Holt's been kicking around for a while, and that was, it's kind of interesting, he discusses moving retention provisions to kindergarten through 3 rather than 3rd and 4th grade. Does that make any difference to you? Do you see any significance in that?
So in Knox County, we believe in early intervention. We know early intervention makes a difference. And so when we think about early intervention, we're thinking about intervening academically for our youngest students. The moment we realize there might be a learning gap or there might need to be just that little extra push in learning for students, we want to intervene strategically and support them. What we know based on the body of research is that retention is not a long-term solution. And so intervening early in a child's academic career could make a very significant impact in the trajectory of their success over time.
So, Dr. Phillips, I want to make sure our audience understands the numbers in Knox County we're talking about. And John did a good job. We're talking about nearly 900 children in the 4th grade who are at risk. And I use that phrase in its colloquial sense, but at risk to possibly repeat 4th grade if they don't reach standards, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any that had to repeat 3rd grade that we kept there under the law last year?
We did.
And what was that number?
It was 36 students.
Okay, so we're not talking about much more. What happens again to the 4th graders that do not reach the metrics as set out by the state?
So if 4th grade students do not meet those metrics, they have an automatic retention. They'll repeat the 4th grade. And at the end of that 4th grade year, they'll test again and they'll be promoted to the 5th grade.
And so, unlike last year where the 3rd graders had, we'll call them ropes, ways to climb up and climb out. And Kat, you saw that. There was a way through an appeals process, tutoring programs, things. What is out there for that 4th grader that does want to go on to the 5th grade that's close? Are there any of those ropes built into the program?
As the law is written currently, there are no ropes or pathways.
And Catherine, Mike, I want to bring you in. We've got to take a quick break in a moment, but I want to get your perspective on that. So as a school board member with Knox County, what do you want to see?
I would really love to see pathways. I really struggle with calling them pathways because I think there are more barriers to the next grade. I think the tutoring, as I understand, and I've heard from friends whose children have been in the tutoring, it has been phenomenal. And I think implementing something like that for our 4th graders to also do in 5th grade, promote them to 5th grade, and then give them the same tutoring opportunities. Also, potentially summer school opportunities, because I think some families were very grateful for that, especially that cannot afford to send their kids to like a very expensive summer school or
private
tutoring, things like that. I think there were a lot of families that were grateful for that if they could plan for it. I think they would love to plan for that, and then I think the tutoring is also really great.
All right, we'll talk about some more timelines when we come back, some answers that we may get in the coming days, and we'll bring in Andy Smith as well for his perspective. Stay with us on Inside Tennessee.